Pence and Daron, Sutton, and you, thank you for spending time with us. This is Perfect Game College Baseball. We're here each and every week. We're virtually visiting a campus near you. And Hunter, I think this show we need to talk about change, because when you think about Florida International, they've got a brand new head coach, and they make a move with a young, talented coach who comes in, Coach Witten, Coach Rich Witten. He comes in and replaces Mervil Melendez. And then there's the change at Long Beach State where transfer portal opened up. Some left Long Beach State. Some came back. He's talking about 34 brand new players. We'll talk with head coach Eric Valenzuela. Change certainly on both these campuses, but they both view it as a very positive thing.
Absolutely. And no matter what, change is always happening. And especially in college baseball, it's such a small window of time and they got to work really quickly. But these two, Rich Witten, just absolutely incredible success at VCU. He worked under Stifler, and just excited to hear, the mindset, the excitement of the new head coaching job. And then Valenzuela bringing in some new young arms. He's done so well with pitching staffs everywhere. He had such great arms with, Corbin Burns at St. Mary's, and he's just always been known to develop great pitching, and it's going to be exciting to hear from him as well.
He sent 4 pitchers into the pro ranks last year alone. Very, very unique and very different conversations. One in South Florida, one in Southern California. He's Hunter, I'm Daron. Let's get it going. Perfect Game College Baseball. We're excited about this show, and we're excited about these guests, and especially at Florida International, because it's a brand new opportunity for a place that, my gosh, talk about a fertile chance to grow baseball. And look, there's a great history there. When you look back in the 2000s, it's 00, 01, 02, 10, 11, and 15. They've gone to the NCAA tournament, and I'm guessing Rich Witten will tell me he plans on taking them back. He joins us now as the new head coach of this Florida International baseball team, FIU. I'm guessing, Rich, and thank you for being with Hunter and I'm guessing when I call you the new head coach, that was on June 23rd. You
Right.
probably feel like years have gone by with all the work you've put in. Probably doesn't feel new anymore because of how hard you've had to work. But earning the opportunity and then the work you've put in, how rewarding has it been early on?
It's been an unbelievable experience so far. I do think I had to take some time to get used to the title, but really for me, once we got to get to work on the field with our guys and we were able to dive in, start the development program, and start to work towards our goals that we're going to have on the field that year, was really when I started feeling most comfortable and most at home, because that, as a coach, that's all we've ever done. And that's why we do it. And that's what we love to do. So there was certainly a lot of work that went into everything this summer. The transfer portal has certainly brought on a lot of pros and cons to our sport. But when you're trying to improve a program quickly and get it on the right track in a short amount of time, that's certainly a resource that we were able to take advantage of this summer, along with some junior college players that were still uncommitted and available as well. With that will go along with a great returning roster. We've got a lot of talent on our roster and some very, very high caliber players. So from a recruiting standpoint, building the staff and understanding the vision of the program this summer, taking that into the fall, being able to work with the guys has been a very, very busy time, but been unbelievably exciting.
Yes, Rich, and I'm sure you do feel at home once you get to work, because this has been your life. You have been college baseball through and through, getting to regionals, a lot of success and a lot of work in the coaching and playing department. There's many exciting things about your story as I'm reading about it and learning about your journey. I'm going to start with your hires of your assistant coaches, and mainly let's start with, can you introduce us to Sean Thompson and what he brings for your pitching staff and y'all's relationship?
Absolutely. Sean is a guy that I was able to coach at VCU for 1 year. My first year at VCU was his last year there, and his nickname was the Bull because he was tough, and you could hand him the ball, and pretty much he'd bring it over when the game was done. And so he was going to go get you 7 or 8 quality innings every time. And he had a stint in pro ball as well, but he didn't necessarily have the best stuff on the mound or totally electric stuff. When he took the mound, but. He was a bulldog. He had a great mentality. He had unbelievable preparation. He was a really mature young man, even as a player. So I got to see, how he worked behind the scenes and how he honed his craft. And so, early on, I knew that one day he had the ability to make a great coach. And after he got done playing pro ball, he came back as a graduate assistant at VCU and really got to understand how high quality of a baseball mind he is. He's a really great baseball mind. He's got that beautiful combination of old school meets new school. He listens to the data. He understands the analytics. He knows how to implement it, when to implement it. But he's also, an old soul, even though he's a young guy. And so he's going to build some mentality within our pitchers that you need to have a combination of some old school mentality where you're going to be out there to be a bulldog and get people out, but also taking advantage of a lot of the new information we have in our game. He does a great job of blending those two things. And not to mention, he's just a great dude. He's a lot of fun to be around and got a fun personality. So we're certainly enjoying having him on.
Oh, man, that's such a wonderful answer, and it is a delicate balance. The data, using it, but the old school mentalities are tried and true, and they keep finding a way to succeed. And if you got the nickname Bull and you weren't electric stuff, that says a lot about the character. So it makes a lot of sense why you'd want to bring him on. And obviously he worked with Stifler as you did, and know what he knows and what y'all's success was with pitching. But I wanted to jump to something that you've been great at, and you seem to always have. There's pitching, which is really important, but if you don't have a catcher and a battery that's working really well, and you've typically been creating and developing some amazing catchers throughout your tenure, Rich. So what are some of the catching essentials and things to succeed on the college level as a catcher?
Sure. I think it all comes down to our routine. And that's going to be success on a lot of the player development side, is establishing those routines, making sure that it's mandatory. Every guy will have a routine, but what your routine is can be individualized to you. So we're going to do a really good job of making specific programs for our guys. And when it comes to, catchers or infielders or hitting, whether they need additional flexibility, they need more receiving drills, blocking drills, added arm strength. We really go through a pretty strict evaluation process in the beginning, identify the strengths, continue to work on those as well, but also make sure that we're improving our weaknesses. And so really putting together a great routine that they execute every single day so that they're building those reps over time is really where the player development side of things comes in.
It's interesting when I look at your roster, curious about the returnees, but you really kind of tweaked my mind on some of the portal guys you were able to take advantage of. If you don't mind, just by name and kind of share with us a couple of players that you think will bolster your team pretty quickly that found their way to you in South Florida.
Absolutely. Our roster this year is one of the most fun rosters that I've ever been able to put together as a coach, because you're going to look at this roster and you're going to see, young men from Canada, the Long Island, the Northeast. We've got Mid-Atlantic guys. We've got guys from all over Florida, the Panhandle, Central Florida. We've got South Florida guys, Miami people. First generation Americans, the families may have immigrated into the States. And so you've got a roster that is unbelievably dynamic, and it's been really, really fun early on to see these guys interact with each other, get to know each other in the locker room. And so talking about the roster a little bit, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, how this group has come together. It's been a lot of fun to watch develop. I think one of the headliners for sure is a grad transfer who was a freshman All-American, who actually was at VCU and graduated, named Evan Chenier. And then we've got a couple other guys as well. We've got an outfielder, left-handed pitcher, a two-way player named Michael Rosario, who I think is going to have a big impact in multiple areas on the field this year. And so from a pitcher and a position player standpoint, we've certainly got more than those two, but those are two guys early on that I think have some track record and the ability to make big impacts right away.
Did Alex Sanchez return to the program?
He did. Alex is going to be a big piece of what we're doing this year. I think two of the biggest returners that I'm looking forward to watch this year is Alex Sanchez, who's going to be pretty much an everyday center fielder and a staple in the middle of the lineup, and Christian Santana is actually a sixth-year senior, right-handed pitcher on the mound, who I really, really am expecting a huge year out of him. He's finally healthy. He's battled a lot of issues throughout his career, hence the sixth year of eligibility, and he's a very mature young man. He's got unbelievable stuff on the mound. I mean, I'm talking big league stuff, every single bullpen, and when you get to see him compete and he's healthy, it's a lot of fun to watch, and he's a great worker and a great young man too. So some fun guys to work with on the returning side as well.
So, Rich, I mean, obviously, getting to interview Stifler last week, and then now we got you this week. And, he talked about pitching and throwing strikes was his main thing, pitching and defense. We have control of the ball. You've brought up, the common thread that I'm seeing here. I love that you say routine and reps over time. What are can you give us a Stifler story or one of the things you took away from working with him for the years y'all had and the success y'all had together?
Sure. I think the biggest thing that I was able to do under Coach Stifler was be myself. And the way that he wanted the staff to really operate was, for instance, the pitching coach to essentially almost be the head coach of the pitchers and really be in charge of the recruiting and development on that side of baseball. The hitting coach and the recruiting coordinator be in charge of running the hitters and be the head coach of the position player, so to speak. And he wanted to coach the culture of the team. And the staff that gets along really well, it's going to have a trickle-down effect to the players. So I think the dynamic of all the staffs that we had at VCU is certainly something that I was able to appreciate and learn from and hopefully implement, as I'm very fortunate enough to now be in charge of the FIU program as well. So, he let us be ourselves. He let us coach the way we wanted to. He held us accountable. Don't get me wrong. Okay. There was freedom but he made sure that things were getting done the way that they needed to. But it was a lot of fun to work with him, learn from him. Again, he's one of those guys that you're lucky to call a mentor, but even more lucky to call a friend. My wife and his family are very close. And, not only was he a great mentor to me as a coach, but, someone who I hope to have a lifelong, friendship and relationship as well. And I know that we will because he's that kind of person. So very thankful for him.
Wow, that's beautiful, and that's the journey. The baseball journey is the relationships at the end of the day. So now you're at the helm, and we've been diving into some of your beautiful thoughts. But like bullet point number one for the offense, we haven't dove into the offense yet. You've done a lot of hit coaching, so what is for your offensive culture? Do you have like a bullet point number one and part of your philosophy / system?
I love to talk about this because one of the internal battles you see in our game a lot of times is swing versus approach, mechanics, versus pitch selection. And it almost goes back and forth. And I get confused about why people have to argue about this because you have to have both to be the best. And so I think you have to talk about having great swings, great swing mechanics, having unbelievable fundamentals, which will all be a waste if you don't have a great mental approach at the plate. Understand that what you're looking for. And vice versa. If your swing stinks and you have a great approach, you won't have success on that end either. So the first thing that we always implement is a sound fundamental swing that's very repeatable and that gives our guys a chance of success across the board. Because I don't think that we can execute our offensive approach from a mindset standpoint unless we have a swing that's going to physically allow them to execute what we're asking them to do. So if we want them to drive the fastball away into the opposite field gap, if you don't have a swing that allows you to physically do that, we're wasting our time talking about it. And so we start off generally with the foundation of the swing mechanics and building a great swing for every guy. And as we rep out those drills and everything on the field that we need to do, we'll start to transition into our offensive approach and then understand really, from situational at bats to advantage counts to two-strike approaches and understand really what pitches we're looking for, what each guy's strengths and weaknesses are. And so from there, I think it starts a lot with the foundation to a swing and then of course leads into a very detailed offensive approach and a plan to play for what we're trying to do and what each guy is trying to do even further.
Boy, good stuff. Incredible stuff. My final question for you is a simple one, maybe simple-minded as well. And it ties back to what you did, at VCU. In your mind, how does a team go on a roll? How does a team win a bunch of games? I mean, you guys won 17 in a row in 22 into the regionals. You won 22 in a row in 21 into the regionals. I know you got to have talent, so let's remove that part of the answer. How else do you do it?
I'm going to steal a cliche and talk about sticking to the process, okay? But, there's a reason why sticking to the process and being consistent is so popular and a cliche in baseball is just because it's necessary. So we have a very, very, firm view of how we're going to play the game every single day, the way we're going to coach our guys. And really, I think what you have to do is understand how to deal with failure. And once our guys have the ability to overcome the failure and realize that failure is going to be a part of the game and that they're going to be faced with failure and they're going to be faced with adversity, and the sun's going to come up tomorrow. And the team that you're playing on the next day doesn't care what just happened to you. They don't care if you just got walked off on. Okay, they want to beat you just as bad. So no one cares or no one feels bad for you. And it's your job to get yourself ready, to be consistent over time and to show up to the field the next day ready to attack it. And when you face a little bit of adversity early and you overcome it, there's nothing that you feel like you can't do. And so I think at times when we face some adversity early and we stuck to the process and we pulled together and we really stayed on track with our goals and how we wanted to approach the game every single day, we understood that no one was going to feel bad for us and no one was going to give us any games just because we weren't playing well. That by the end of the year, once you had that confidence, you've been through tough times, and things start to go well. As a coach at that point, to be honest with you, you start to get out of the way a little bit. When guys get hot and start to play with energy and you really start to see them come together as a unit, that's when, as a coach, you have to understand, when you need to insert yourself and when you need to let them take charge a little bit more. And once those guys start playing well in the back half of the year, it's a lot of fun to just watch them go do their thing.
Rich, you just hit on something that I wanted to ask you about this in general, because I think it's something that's not hit on very much, but you hit up a point that I've never really heard of and I've never really thought of getting out ahead of, because I've always thought baseball is a game of failure. You have to learn to master yourself, but how to deal with failure. You had a minor in psychology, which I love psychology. I think we don't harp on the mental side of baseball. You have a common thread of balanced principles, consistency, routine, work ethic. You trust this process, all the nuts and bolts. But does your psychology minor have any effect onto how, or how would you even teach your team how to deal with failure? Like, that's something that I think everyone needs to hear.
Right. When it comes to dealing with failure, a lot of your ability to bounce back and respond to failure and fight through adversity is the preparation that has gone into everything that you've done up until this point. So if you've prepared and you've executed and you've planned and you've competed and you've given everything that you have, you're going to be able to go into the next game or the next at bat or take the next pitch. And you're going to have a confidence and an understanding that no matter what happened in the last at bat or the last game, that your confidence and your preparedness up to that point in time will get you through where you need to get through. And I think when we talk about failure can happen anywhere in our game. Okay, failure can happen in BP in the middle of September when we're working on drills on the field. Failure can happen in the weight room. Failure can happen in the classroom, hopefully not too much, but it can happen in short stints. And so when you're dealing with different parts of the young men and the college baseball player, there's going to be failure throughout different parts of their life that is required with the college student. You sometimes just have to remind them of what failure looks like and how they were able to get through it. If you're having a max out squat day and you fall to the ground and you got to get picked up, you've got to understand that in 2 weeks you're going to put that same weight on your back and then you're going to get it. And so when you start to learn how to overcome different failures, it might not necessarily always be on the baseball field, but throughout all of the different areas that we have our guys compete in, there's failure happening all around you, and you bounce back more than you realize you do. You sometimes just have to show them, that they have the ability to bounce back even more than they even realize internally sometimes.
Amazing, Rich. Thank you. Best of luck to you. Congratulations on this opportunity. I love listening to Hunter and guys like you get going on stuff like this. I forget to jump back in and rap. Hey, listen, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. We've really appreciated this.
I enjoyed it, fellas. I really appreciate it. Great talking with you.
Let's go from Miami to Long Beach, California. Eric Valenzuela will join us, the head coach of Long Beach State. This is Perfect Game, college baseball on Perfect Game TV. So for me, there are times I feel like I'm home, and I know Hunter's there a lot too when he goes down and spends some extra time and visits, but I'm in Orange County. I'm a Southern California kid, though it's been many years. I always feel like I'm home when I go back to talk about and with Long Beach State. Blair Field, pitched there in high school. It's such a classic, beautiful field. Eric Valenzuela is the head coach of Long Beach State, and he spends time with us now. Eric, thanks for spending time with Hunter and I on this unique show.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
I want to go. I want to start in a different direction because I love what you've done, and I know we'll dive into baseball very quickly. But you've done something with your athletes that you've called the Speaker Series, where you've brought in folks in law enforcement, a scout, a PGA golfer. I think it always speaks to, these are the questions we usually ask at the end of interviews, but I think it speaks to the whole athlete, the whole man that you're trying to develop there at Long Beach State. Where'd that idea come from, and how much impact have you found that it has had?
Yeah, no, well, I didn't make that up. I had the privilege of playing for Pat Murphy, who I know you guys know, at Arizona State, and I played for him for in '97 and '98. And I clearly remember the first week my freshman year at ASU, and us having the Speaker Series. Now, it might have been named something different, but I remember clearly just having every day that first week just a different speaker in all different areas, from police officer to we had Harvey Dorfman come one year, like the mental game of baseball, just something different every day. And that was it for that week. Like, there was no baseball, nothing physical. It was just that at the end of the day. And I remember it really helped me as a player just kind of get my feet wet, that first week of school when us as freshmen are trying to find ourselves a little bit. And so I just remembered that a ton. And so when I got my opportunity to be a head coach, that was something that I remembered that really helped me. And so that was something that I brought along, and it has really worked. And what it really does is that first week of school, you're excited, everybody's excited, you want to jump into it, you want to get in the weight room, you want to get on the field. But, for these freshmen and even transfers in, they're still kind of trying to figure out, where the classes are and where they're living and all of this stuff, still trying to get books, still trying to just do some things. And so, that first 4 or 5 days when we start and when school starts, that's what we do. I kind of give them the whole day to kind of, go to class, kind of get their feet wet a little bit. And then, that 5 p.m. where everybody's out of class for the day, then we'll have a speaker series, from our first team meeting to, a police officer to, maybe a mental game. We had the mayor come in one year. We have an alum, that is now in the professional world, come in and talk, about life after baseball. And, this year we had John Mallinger in, who is a professional, he was a ex-Long Beach State golfer who was on the PGA Tour, who was also one of the co-founders of Travis Matthew, the golf, the awesome polos, brand. And he loves dirtbag baseball. He brings his kids here. So he came and spoke this year. And he talked about, golf, and those high intense moments, and then life after, going in the business world, and doing something after baseball. In his sport, golf. But just trying to get different areas and helping these guys, because it's just, to me, it's more than the baseball part of it. We're obviously growing men here, and that's my promise to these kids and their parents when they come and play for us, that we'll have them prepared in all aspects, not just the baseball part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's something that the kids never forget. And I would think that has there been a speaker? Because every time I hear a speaker, no matter who it is, there's always something. Has there been a speaker that you were listening to and you took some valuable information from?
Well, I think the new one now. We always have. Obviously baseball, right? These guys come, and we want the whole student athlete. But these guys, their number one goal is to play in the big leagues. That's what it is. And so the game has really changed now in a lot of different areas, from the draft being shortened to, advisors and agents and, what teams are looking for, analytics and all this stuff. And so every year I'll have a scout come in, I'll have an advisor come in and talk to our guys, about the game, and about what these scouts are looking for now, and what GMs are looking for, what advisors what they help with and what they can do, and do you need one or not, and then here's the other thing, we talked, we had a scout come in who was also an alum this year, and he talked about life as a minor leaguer, right? Because, our guys come in and, they think that, going to class and getting up for weights and going to practice is a tough day, but, the life of a minor leaguer is it's tough, and there's nobody holding your hand out there, and you're taking these bus rides, you're living in these tough towns, and you're all by yourself out there, and everybody's out for themselves a little bit. And so, that's the reality of this thing. You're not making a lot of money, and, it's a challenge for sure. And so I want them to hear that side of it as well, and understand what we're going through is to prepare them, for anything. And that life, minor league lifestyle, which is why, summer ball is so important to us, right? To send guys out to these small towns, Alaska, the North Woods League, the Cape, just to get them, prepared for when they do chase their dream of minor league baseball and anything else that they're going to do if it's not baseball. So.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, Eric, summer ball and the development of the college player as they go, move along throughout their career in college and move forward into professional ball. To me, that's like the prime time when you make a difference. And this is exciting. Obviously, the fall, everyone's coming back. Everyone's put their work in, and they're looking to accomplish, whatever their intention was. Has anyone come in this fall, had this great summer, and looks like they're primed to, make a huge leap in their development? Who's got you excited so far coming into campus this year?
Yeah. Well, we're really excited. This is really a new group. We had a lot of older guys, and we were affected good and bad, with the transfer portal as well. And so we kind of have a whole new group, and it's been really good, But yes, you're right, Hunter. Summer baseball, man, is as close as you'll get to minor league baseball. What these guys need to understand is this is like lavish living, right, in college baseball. It really is. You're talking, we got meals for these guys. We're taking care of these guys. We're traveling. We're in nice hotels, and we're going through it like this. But summer ball, it kind of gives you that reality a little bit, right? You're with the host family. You're on your own. You don't know anybody really, for at least the first part of summer ball. It's long bus rides. It's playing in these towns where, hey, you may get a lot of people or you may get like 5, and so it's just it's total preparation for it. But it's our bloodline, and that's what I call it. It really is. I want our guys to experience that, and I want them to learn from others. I think that's the other thing too is, I'm the head coach, but I work with the pitchers on a daily basis. Brian Peters works with our hitters. Summer ball, I tell my pitchers all the time, go learn, go hear a different voice, go here, come back with something new. Now, before they go out, we're going to have some goals, right? Hey, you need to let's sharpen up this breaking ball. Let's learn a new pitch. Let's gain velocity, whatever it may be, mechanic wise from a hitter, whatever it is, go out, get a different voice, go learn something, and be excited to tell us, and show us, what you took from summer ball. And so, I look at a guy like Johnny Long, right, who's one of our middle of the order hitters for us, who was a walk-on here, 2 years ago, and now he's one of the best hitters on the West Coast. Went to the Cape, struggled a little bit early, but the more at bats he got, being around that competition, he improved. He got better. Power numbers went up. I think he led his team in RBIs and home runs, and now when you go out there and you go through some struggles, but then, you're in that environment and you improve a little bit, you learn some new things, you come back just kind of a different guy. You come back a little bit, more positive. You come back, a little bit hungry, you're excited, all of that. That's one. The good story is we have a guy by the name of Eddie Saldivar, who was our starting second baseman last year, who he's draft eligible this year as a sophomore. We sent him out to the Cape. And he got cut. He got cut from the Cape. He started off, I think, his first 15 or 20 ABs, and he didn't have a lot of success. And they moved in a different direction, and we were able to get him. For him, I think the humbling experience of he went from the best player, one of the best hitters on the West Coast and in the country out of high school, starting as a true freshman at Long Beach State to getting cut, and we send him to the Portland Pickles in the West Coast League, and he has a fabulous summer, and he now, he has a chip on his shoulder. He going through that experience is only going to make him a better player to go through that. And that's what summer ball is all about. And as a coach, that's what you explain to these guys is that, hey, you're going to have ups and downs, man, and you got to be able to crawl out of it, and you got to be able to get through it. And so, yeah. And then I would say there's plenty of guys that had great summers, but we have a incoming, transfer portal from ASU named Graham Osman who there were some flashes at his time at ASU, obviously, of some really good stuff. But he went out and pitched for the Santa Barbara Foresters this year, and man, he was fantastic. He had a great summer. He was one of the best pitchers, that you heard of, out of summer ball for all college teams. And so, with the loss of pretty much our whole weekend rotation, that's a guy that can really help us solidify one of those spots. And, he's going to have to earn it. We just got into bullpens yesterday. It was our first bullpen. So we have a lot of guys with a lot to prove, but he's definitely exciting.
It's interesting, Jack Noble and with the Twins, and Luis Ramirez with Texas, and Harrison Devereaux with Toronto, and Marcus Johnson with Boston. Wow, developing some pitchers. Now, I know you have 34 brand new players this year for different ways, whether it be freshman, JC, or transfer portal. You talk about Osman. But that's got to be a point of pride that you've got that amount of guys that the next level believes, hey, they've developed at this program. You're their coach, as you've talked about. That's got to be a point of pride. You do it, as you say, to develop young men. Maybe it's a young teacher someday. Maybe it's a banker someday. But you got to be proud of those 4 guys and their start to their journeys professionally.
Yeah, and they all have different stories. They're all different situations, and they're all going to find their own journey there. But we were lucky enough to have all those guys part of our program. They did a lot for us, and we're proud of them for sure. And this is and what an opportunity. I mean, when you lose those guys, I look at it as great opportunities for these these young guys, freshmen, transfer portal or JC guys that we have. And then there's guys waiting in the wings that have been here, right? You look at guys like Ethan Clough, and you look at Josh Haley's guys that have been here a while that are just kind of waiting their turn, right? They've been pitching in relief, and here's an opportunity, and again, they're going to have to earn it. But it's definitely exciting. When you lose those guys, you get a little nervous, but I think we've built a pretty good foundation here on the mound that it's just kind of next guy up, ready to go.
Do you have any guys that you're like thinking, obviously you sent a lot of pitchers out last year, but any guys this season that you're like, in that realm?
You mean on our current team?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like, those are rare golden gooses there for sure.
The Osman kid is good, man. I mean, he's every bit of like 91, 94 from a 3/4 lefty with a big slider
on the side angle.
Yeah, man, he's really good. I mean, we have a kid, so we have
nice.
We have a kid
I'll be following up on him.
Yeah, we have Grant Cherry, who's a transfer from Tennessee, who's a freshman. Up to 97, and just didn't pitch much. Tennessee was really good last year, and he didn't pitch much as a true freshman. And so, he's in here trying to, he has some command issues, but that's what we kind of do is get these guys in the zone. And with that big arm, there's not many big arms like that on the West Coast. It's more pitchability and things, but man, we can get that guy to be in the zone with that velocity and that power. He could be something pretty good here too.
It's interesting because I want to let all of our viewers know that Blair Field's such a great part of Southern California. October 2nd, there's a free youth camp at Blair Field. October 12th, prospect camp at Blair Field. The holiday camp, December 27th through the 30th. The winter youth camp, 1st to 8th graders. Visit Long Beach State Baseball's social media. They've got great links to it. Eric, we really appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great fall. I know you guys are going to get going aggressively. You already have. We thank you for joining us on this show.
Hey, thank you guys very much, man. I really appreciate you guys having me.
Eric Valenzuela joining us. We also want to thank Rich Witten, the head coach of Florida International. 2 different parts of the United States, 2 really fun, unique programs to talk about. Hunter and I, thank you for hanging out with us. We'll see you next week on Perfect Game College Baseball.